game type situations. So that's kind of where we're at. Starters are still kind of fuzzy, and I'll know more probably next Tuesday. The good news is I think we have good competition, and our depth situation I think is a little better maybe in most areas than it's been, so that's encouraging. And then the other element is we'll probably know a little bit more next week about first-year guys who might be out, and probably a few of those will be, maybe start out the 4-game deal and then just see what it looks like as we go. So that's kind of the deal there. And then just specifically, I'll cite an example, give you an illustration, which nobody will be interested in, but I think it's kind of representative of our team. Just standing out here thinking today about, a guy like Jeremy Chaplin, thinking about, Asher Fahey, and, a guy like Doetzler. We really had our time practicing with those guys with our twos last year in spring ball. It was hard. And right now those guys are so improved. I think that's the beauty of the game. Opportunity to improve in all three of those guys. Just to cite, I could name other guys, but they've really taken advantage of that opportunity, and they're looking like football players out there. So it's kind of encouraging, and that's kind of what we're hoping to see with all of our guys, see the growth and development, and that's really what the game's all about. So that's first thing. Secondly, this is obviously the first week of class, and the weather cooperated right with it, predictably. So it's really kind of good. I think I personally like having a week, not bye week, but have a week we're not competing yet in that first week, so everybody can get in a routine. They get used to going to class, traveling campus, getting their new schedule done, because it's entirely different than camp where it's all football, it's all meetings, all basically we're in a short area now. At least they're out navigating like every other student on campus, so it's good for them to have a week of getting ready for that. And then Sunday we'll officially transition into our game week mode, so that's kind of where that's at. And then the last thing I'll just touch on the gambling situation. We did get feedback from the NCAA. So just as I've been saying, we have a handful of guys involved, and really there's kind of three different levels, if you will. You have a couple guys that are, I think, looking at serious consequences potentially. You've got a couple guys that are looking at suspensions, and then another guy who's in an appeal state, and I can't really comment because the other players haven't given me permission, but knows it's been a topic of conversation. And right now he does have a year suspension, the season suspension, and we definitely are going to appeal that. The department will appeal that. I'm confident Beth will do a great job, and the department will do a great job of reapproaching this with the NCAA. And my personal feelings again, it's really hard you can't negotiate the game integrity. So if someone bets on our sport, tough to say much beyond that. But after that, I think it really needs to be rethought a little bit. I strongly believe that, and I'm hoping the appeal maybe will reflect some people rethinking things a little bit. We live in a totally different world than we did 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and in Noah's case, he has not committed a crime at all. So nothing criminal, and I just feel like it's a little bit harsh. I think it's punitive, me personally, and I'm hopeful that they'll reconsider his case, and I won't say I'm confident, but I would assume at some point they're going to reshape what they announced back late April and early May. In terms of the policy moving forward, just as similar to the drug testing policy, it's radically different than it was 2 years ago, and our culture is radically different as a country. So I'm hopeful that they'll catch up maybe in their thinking a little bit as it pertains to Noah. And again, I can't say enough about him, and it just he committed a lot of other crimes. He hasn't committed a crime. He could commit crimes and get a lot less of a punishment, which seems kind of funny in some ways. And last thing I'll just run there for commentary, I still find highly unusual or interesting that there's two major universities affected in the whole country on this topic, and I can't imagine these are the only two universities that have students gambling. Can't imagine that. And I understand the rules. I get all that, but anyway, so that's the end of that one. I'll stop there and throw it out for questions.
So have you asked about that? About why just Iowa? Have you asked anyone that knows more about this?
Yeah, I wouldn't know who to ask, quite frankly. I think that's if you guys got some time, maybe you want to chase that one down a little bit. I think it'd be probably interesting. It just, I guess it's our bad luck, because as far as I understand, it's a state thing. Why those two universities only were targeted, the college students at all kinds of universities. It sounds like it's only athletes. That's just my impression. It's only athletes. That's an interesting question too, an interesting dynamic. And my guess is we could probably fill, maybe not Phil Kinnick, we couldn't Phil Kinnick, but probably could Phil Kinnick with all the college student athletes or students that have gambled. And again, I understand we're compliant to the NCAA rules. I get that, but I just think probably needs to be rethought a little bit and
With-
modernized.
With Noah, did the NCAA give you any rationale for why it was so
I've
severe?
seen nothing in writing. Yeah, so I know he bet on one of our other sports teams here, and I understand that that may be a bad thing. He bet for them, and I'm guessing he got caught up in the emotion. And again, I just I don't do this stuff, but it's on their phones. People are enticing him with apparently $300 credit if you go with us. All that stuff. I think it's just time to really recognize the world these guys are living in, and maybe be a little bit compassionate towards that.
So has the appeal